Chapter 5, July 1. See this map, which shows where units were positioned at dawn on July 1. South Mountain is here. Chambersburg and Gettysburg are here. The Chambersburg Pike, the highway that connects Chambersburg and Gettysburg, is the little line running across here. Cashtown Gap, or Cashtown Pass, is about here. See Buford's Union Cavalry Division at Gettysburg. To Buford's north are two Confederate divisions from Ewell's Corps. To Buford's west are two Confederate divisions from Hill's Corps. That's 4 Confederate infantry divisions in a pincer close to and approaching Gettysburg. The remaining 5 divisions of Confederate infantry are all on the west side of South Mountain. General Buford, the Union cavalry commander, warned his men the night before that they would probably be in a big fight on the 1st. Buford, with 2 cavalry brigades, was determined to hold his position west of Gettysburg as long as possible. Buford's immediate support was the 2 Union corps south of Gettysburg, the 1st and 11th Corps, and there were 2 more Union corps just behind them to the east, the 12th and 3rd. Now look at this map, which shows unit locations at dawn on July 1 with arrows that show where they moved on July 1. The arrows don't show the paths the units followed, just straight lines from start to end. Black and red arrows are infantry, black for Confederate, red for Union. Blue and green arrows are cavalry units. Green are Confederate cavalry, blue are Union cavalry. And notice that on July 1, all the Union infantry were heading for Gettysburg. For the 2 previous days, on June 29 and 30, General Meade had the Army of the Potomac moving northeast to protect their right flank and to defend against a threat to Baltimore. On the morning of July 1, Meade had firm intelligence that the enemy was consolidating around Cashtown and Gettysburg, which were over here in the other direction, and so his army turned northwest. The 3 Union corps that are farthest away are the 2nd, 5th, and 6th. See this loop that shows Union units' movements on July 1. General Meade believed Lee was concentrating his army, but did not know exactly where. In the morning, Meade received Buford's report from 10 p.m. the evening before, which told him Hill's Corps was approaching Gettysburg via Cashtown, that Longstreet's Corps was probably behind Hill, and that Ewell's Corps was coming from Carlisle with Rodes's division at Petersburg, which is here. Meade doesn't know the terrain at Gettysburg, and as the day developed, Meade did not know how much of Lee's army was in the fight at Gettysburg, how much was not, and where the rest of it was located. See Meade's message to General Halleck at 7 a.m., copied from the official records. This message says Meade is waiting for more information on the point of Lee's concentration and the nature of the country, unquote, to decide whether Meade will attack or not. Historians write that Meade's preferred move on the morning of the 1st was to try to lure the enemy into attacking him at the Pipe Creek line. Meade spent the morning of July 1 inspecting the proposed defense lines along Pipe Creek and then returned to his headquarters at Taneytown before 11 a.m. Meade's Pipe Creek circular explained the plan and was sent out sometime during the day. I can't tell when. It was not an order to be carried out, just a plan that was available, depending. It was sent too late for Generals Reynolds and Howard to get it. Reynolds and Howard commanded the 1st and 11th Corps, and starting at 8 a.m., they were on their way north to Gettysburg. Meade didn't learn until about noon that fighting had started at Gettysburg, and I'll talk about how all that happened in a moment. In the loop, see the 1st and 11th Corps march to Gettysburg from Emmitsburg. 1st Corps was in the lead, and General Reynolds was riding in front. History records that General Reynolds, that morning when he left Emmitsburg at 8 a.m., did not expect anything special. He was riding forward with two infantry corps, the 1st and 11th, to support Buford's division at Gettysburg. By about 9 a.m., the lead division of the 1st Corps had come within 3 miles of Gettysburg. Starting at about 8 a.m., General Buford's 2 brigades at Gettysburg were in a battle with 2 infantry brigades from Heath's division. Buford sent off a message to General Meade about 9 a.m. See the message here, copied from the official records. The timestamp says 10 a.m., but at least one historian believes it must in fact have been around 9 a.m. Buford tells Meade that Hill's Corps is driving in his pickets from the west and that Ewell's Corps is doing the same from the north. And General Reynolds is about 3 miles away. For me, the most interesting thing about this message, aside from the dramatic content, is that Buford knew where General Reynolds was and what force he had with him. Nothing got by General Buford. He had scouts out in all directions, and they were constantly feeding him information. On the Emmitsburg Road, Reynolds and the troop with him started to hear gunfire from the west. And then, as Sears wrote, a horseman came pelting up to the column from the direction of the town, unquote. It was a courier from General Buford announcing that Confederates were advancing on the Chambersburg Pike and that his 2 brigades were fully engaged. See this loop, copied from my animated map, covering the first day. General Reynolds rode forward with his aides, and they met with Buford on the front lines near McPherson's Ridge. Reynolds ordered Buford to hold the enemy in check as long as possible. Reynolds sent off 3 messages. First, to General Meade at Taneytown. Reynolds told General Meade that the enemy was coming on in strong force and that he would hold them back as long as possible. The message was carried by Captain Stephen Weld. Harry Fans, in his book, Gettysburg the First Day, wrote that Reynolds told Weld to ride to General Meade as fast as he could, even if it meant killing his horse. And note that Captain Weld probably rode down the Taneytown Road here and was probably following the rider carrying Buford's message to General Meade, which was sent maybe 45 minutes earlier. The second message went to General Oliver Howard, commander of the 11th Corps, which was on the road south, just behind them. Reynolds ordered Howard to bring on the 11th Corps with all speed. The third message went to General Daniel Sickles, commanding the 3rd Corps. Reynolds ordered Sickles to bring on the 3rd Corps. What was Reynolds's plan? Historians say that he led the 1st and 11th Corps north to Gettysburg, planning to support Buford, and did not expect to fight. Buford's message to Reynolds the night before described Ewell's Corps approaching Gettysburg from the north, Hill's Corps approaching from the west, with Longstreet's Corps behind Hill's. Do you believe that Reynolds did not expect a fight at Gettysburg on July 1? K.M. Brown, in his book, Meade at Gettysburg, claims that the Army commander, General Meade, sent Reynolds north to Gettysburg with 2 corps in order to force Lee to expose his position, strength, and intentions. Brown wrote this: Meade had no definitive knowledge of the exact whereabouts of all the corps and divisions of Lee's army. He had only bits and pieces of information. Reynolds's operation on 1 July was, in large measure, a reconnaissance in force. Meade had to find a way to cause the enemy to unite and deploy so as to reveal its strength as well as its intentions, unquote. One of the key pieces of evidence Brown refers to is a message from Meade to Reynolds on midday of the day before, June 30. You see here a copy from the official records. Meade orders Reynolds to fall back if the enemy advances in force against him, and to get all the information you can, unquote. Meade's order to Reynolds to withdraw if attacked seems to be a known and accepted piece of the history of Gettysburg. Other historians, besides Brown, also wrote that Reynolds was ordered to withdraw if attacked, and the order to retreat if attacked was mentioned by Meade in his orders to other corps commanders. As far as I know, no other historian has suggested any special reason why Meade ordered Reynolds to retreat if attacked in force. Brown also claims that Reynolds planned to fall back on the 11th Corps if attacked, and ordered the 11th Corps commander, Major General Oliver Howard, to halt the 11th Corps in the area of the Wentz and Sherfy houses, unquote. See this map of the Gettysburg area. The 1st and 11th Corps were approaching on the Emmetsburg Road here. The Wentz and Sherfy houses were on a piece of high ground south of town here. It's an area we now call the Peach Orchard. Brown wrote that this strategy, reconnaissance in force, would require deploying the 1st Corps to make it effective. General Reynolds was killed while doing that. Major General Abner Doubleday commanded one of the divisions in 1st Corps. He was senior when Reynolds was killed and took over command on the battlefield. Doubleday did not know what Reynolds's plan was. When Major General Howard arrived with the 11th Corps, he was senior to Doubleday, and Howard then took over as battlefield commander, and that was about 11:30 a.m. So, 2 changes of command in about an hour, and Sears wrote that the only relevant order Howard had from Reynolds was to put a reserve of infantry and artillery on Cemetery Hill. Remember that Reynolds sent a message back to General Meade. This was the one carried by Captain Weld. Brown writes that both Buford's written 10 a.m. message and Captain Weld with Reynolds's verbal message reached Meade's headquarters together just past noon. Reynolds's message was that the enemy was advancing on Gettysburg and he would hold them back as long as possible. What did Meade do? 2 of his 7 corps were then engaged at Gettysburg. Meade's plan was still to defend along the Pipe Creek line, but that plan began to be less and less relevant. I'll pause for a moment here and look at a map showing the larger area. These are positions about noon. And now I'll add labels. 6th Corps is way out to the east at Manchester. They won't leave until 10 p.m. 5th Corps is marching, approaching Littlestown. 2nd Corps is marching to Gettysburg from Taneytown. 3rd Corps is just north of Emmetsburg. 12th Corps is at 2 taverns. And of course, 11th and 1st Corps are both at Gettysburg. 7 corps in total. Meade didn't know yet that Reynolds was killed. Meade sent messages to General Sedgwick, commanding the 6th Corps, and General Slocum, commanding the 12th Corps, telling them to get their 2 corps ready to move. Which brings up the issue of where corps were originally ordered to go on the 1st. See this map, with Gettysburg at the top, Westminster at the bottom, Emmetsburg on the left, Hanover and Manchester on the right. This map shows where units were ordered to go on July 1 before fighting started at Gettysburg and changed everything. 3 of the Union corps finished their marches for the day and were then ordered to pack up and continue on to Gettysburg, the 2nd, 5th, and 12th Corps. The 3rd Corps got conflicting orders. General Reynolds ordered the 3rd to move to Gettysburg, but according to Bradley Gottfried, in his book Brigades of Gettysburg, General Meade had ordered the 3rd Corps to guard the Army's left flank at Emmetsburg. Those were conflicting orders. In Gottfried's telling of it, a hurried order from General Howard telling Sickles that Reynolds was dead and that he should rush his men to the battlefield finally settled the matter, unquote. Sickles left a brigade behind to guard the Army's flank, and had the rest of the 3rd Corps moving to Gettysburg around 2 p.m. 2nd Corps, commanded by Major General Winfield Hancock, was originally ordered to march to Taneytown on July 1. Meade's headquarters was at Taneytown. Hancock and the 2nd Corps arrived there about 11 a.m. About 1:30 p.m., General Meade and a group of staff rode over to Hancock's headquarters. Brown wrote that Meade explained what he knew about what was happening at Gettysburg and said he had no knowledge of Gettysburg in the area, and he needed to know whether it was advisable to move the Army there, unquote. Meade wanted Hancock to go to Gettysburg, take command, and report back to him. The 2nd Corps would follow Hancock to Gettysburg. See this table that summarizes things at around 1:30 p.m. At midday on July 1, 2 of Meade's corps, 1st and 11th, were at Gettysburg. 4 more, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 12th, were on their way to Gettysburg. That leaves the 6th Corps. The 6th Corps got their order to march to Gettysburg at 8 p.m. on the night of July 1 and were on the road 2 hours later. Coddington wrote that Meade got word that Reynolds was killed about 1 p.m., but actually it must have been a bit later than that. General Howard, who was 11th Corps commander when he woke up that morning, at midday was still in command at Gettysburg. As I said a moment ago, at around 1 p.m., Howard ordered General Sickles to bring the 3rd Corps, and Howard also ordered General Slocum to bring the 12th Corps. 12th Corps at that time was at Two Taverns. 3rd Corps was just north of Emmitsburg. General Hancock arrived at Gettysburg about 4 or 4:30 p.m. and took command of the battlefield. Meade left Taneytown for Gettysburg around 10 p.m. Next, Chapter 6, The Confederate Story on July 1.